Hello everyone, this is Marc Sabatella from Mastering MuseScore, and welcome to the Music Master Class. So I'm starting this with the music right away so that the videos, when they're recorded, start with things right away. I'm now realizing that what I really need to do is have kind of a pre-recorded thing with some music as people are entering, so I don't start talking right away, but something's happening right away. So that's my plan, and this is my first masterclass back in my actual studio here. So yeah, this is the setup where I plan to be normally. I'm now getting used to it. It's like I set up all these things. Remember, like I didn't used to have the keyboard here. There's a lot of stuff that we didn't used to have this thing within the community where I can bring people on to talk. There's so many things that have all been set up while I've been at school for the last few months. So this is the first time since setting up all those things that I'm back in my studio. And so suddenly it's foreign to me. Being home is like something to get used to. So anyhow, hopefully everything goes smoothly here. And thanks people checking in here. Good to see you, Rod. And so let's see. I want to again, as I did during the cafe, tell you about some things on my mind and get some of your feedback here. So one of the things that I was just talking about is this whole idea of an introduction. And yeah, I feel like if I had it takes like by the time I hit the go live button, when you all get the notification that okay, it's live and you can join, it's like the better part of a minute before everyone's all in and settled, right? And so I want to find some way of easing that transition. So I'll probably have some sort of, pre-recorded thing for like 30 seconds that it won't matter if you miss before I start talking live. But anyhow, that's all stuff that I got to figure out. But I will gladly take your input on how you would like to see that work. What would make sense for your experience as you're just joining, and if you're watching later on the recording, so you don't have a lot of dead air there. So those are the things that I'm trying to juggle. So that's one thing to just have in the back of your mind, and I would love feedback on. But the other thing is what I mentioned in the cafe about naming. And Gijs, I just saw your comment, and it's definitely well taken in the community. I have this sense that Mastering MuseScore is a bit limiting as a name for everything that I do. For most of you, you found me through MuseScore, but as I'm expanding and producing more courses that involve just music creation in general, I don't really want to limit my audience to MuseScore users. And I don't want us to think about that's all we are people learning how to use some piece of software. We're people creating music, right? And so I am thinking about expanding and having a name that's a bit more inclusive, a bit more descriptive of all that we do here. How I actually integrate that, because yeah, Mastering MuseScore is a powerful name, and I don't want to lose that, and I don't plan to lose that, and I just see that my volume's too low, and I just got that more where I intend it. There we go. Anyhow, I'm just thinking about those issues. So if you haven't already, I want to direct you to the thread that I created to kind of get your feedback on these ideas. And so I'm going to post that into the chat here, the link, in case you haven't seen it already. And there's the link. Hello? Did I not post a link? I thought I did. Huh. Does it not like links? Does it not like me? Oh, I have to hit the send button. So what I've done is I have no idea what's going on, but my links are not showing up. That's weird. Huh. Hello? Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Very strange, so not sure what's going on, and if other people are trying to type into the chat and you're not seeing anything, I don't know what to say. It's not an issue that I've seen before, so whatever. We just move on, right? So what I'm going to do is start talking about some music and give you a chance to think about any of those things that I was talking about. So one of the things that I definitely wanted to do as far as sharing some thoughts about music has to do with checking in on the status of that collaborative project. And I'm going to do that in a second. The first thing that I want to do, though, is remind everyone about the challenge that's going on. And the challenge here is this really wonderful project, and most of you are aware of it, but for those of you who are not, it is this challenge here, which I would also love to share in the chat, if only I could actually get, oh, now that one showed up. Huh, very strange. Not sure what was going on, but that's the challenge. So I will, that's the link to the challenge. And this is where the idea is that you're going to take this piece of music and create your own melody based around it, and then not just a melody, but then turn that into your composition of some sort. So the actual chords were these that we can see here. An A. Whoops. Get the keyboard on. That always helps. So one of the things that's different here is when I was at school, I was playing an actual acoustic piano. It was a Kawai, I think. It was an upright piano, but definitely real piano. And back in my studio here, I have my digital, so it only makes noise when I tell it to. So I got to tell it to. I got to remember that. So we have our chord progression, right? And I'm actually not meaning to have the speakers on, so let me turn those speakers off. I'm a little not sure how I got those on, but there we go. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. And hopefully it's still coming through. That's if I have everything all set correctly. So that's the chord progression, and I just made up a simple little melody, right? That's my little melody there. And so your task will be to create your own melody. So you only see the small picture with the keyboard with the black rectangle. Really? Okay. So what have I done? What have I done? It says I'm sharing my screen. Oh, okay. I can see my screen share thing. Okay, never mind. I will get that fixed. This big black area here should be my screen, and somehow I think I know why it's not, and sorry about that. So thanks for the feedback there, and this is now the piece. So we have our A chord, our C sharp minor chord, our F sharp minor chord, our B half diminished, minor 7 flat 5 is half diminished, and then our A chord, our E chord, and our A chord, and with some sort of melody that you all are supposed to create. And yeah, there's a lot of flexibility in what you're going to do here, how you're going to create that melody, how you're going to arrange it, what kind of music you're going to make from that. And it's designed to have a lot of flexibility in it. You get to be creative within the bounds of starting from this chord progression. So I want to see as many as people as possible submit for this thing. The more people that submit, the more we can all learn from each other, and that's really the goal here, is to all learn from each other. Yes, there's going to be winners, and the more people that submit, well then if you don't submit, your chances of winning are 0. If you do submit, your chances instantly go up infinitely, right? They don't just double. Twice 0 is still 0, right? It's going from not entering to entering. It's like not buying a lottery ticket versus buying it. That's the most important lottery ticket to buy. That's why, I don't buy lottery tickets often. But if you do, you got to buy the one to have a chance of winning. Then going from 1 ticket to 2 tickets to 3 tickets, whatever, that doubles your chance, whatever. That's nothing. It's going from no chance to some chance. That's the big step to take. So that's the step that I want to see everyone take with this piece, is go from no chance of winning to some chance of winning. And again, the more entries we get, the more learning that can take place around that. So uh, so there you go. So hopefully the screen situation is all fixed up now. I think it looks like it is, as far as I can tell. So yeah, I just had when I started to share a countdown screen, and then I decided, nah, I'm not going to do that this time. And then that messed up my screen sharing. Okay, so great. So yeah, it is in A originally, but absolutely you can transpose it. So you probably transposed it to F at some point because you wanted to and then forgot that you did. But absolutely take it to another key to make it more comfortable. The way you would transpose normally is Control A to select all, and then you go to Tools, Transpose, and then you pick a new key, F major. And now the chords progression's in F. There's that same exact melody, same exact voicings, I think, more or less, that I had played before, but in F. So, yeah, I'm going to continue to come back to talking about this for the rest of the month, because that's how long we're running this contest. And I'll come back to it periodically and give some ideas. But mostly I want this to be about you all pursuing your own paths, right? This isn't about me showing you how to do something. This is about you exploring things on your own somewhat. So I really want to encourage that, but I will definitely show some things. In fact, while I've got the piece up, I'm going to do the thing. Actually, we're going to make a game of this. So here's the game. Here's how the game is going to work. In this game, you all are going to just, in the chat, say up or down. Okay? Up, down, or same. So I want everyone to type into the chat either up, down, or same. And I'm going to pick a starting note. Actually, instead of picking a starting note, I'm gonna pick a starting note randomly. All right, C is my starting note. All right. If it had not been in the key of F, I would have treated it as a pickup or something. All right, great. Up, down, or same. Okay, Colleen. Yeah, that's funny. But I'll take it. So great. So I'll definitely take some more ups and some more downs and some more sames, and this is great. And so once I have, say, 8 of them, I want a few more. So a couple more up, downs, or sames, and then I will be ready to go. There's a lot of ups, so at some point I want a down. So by gosh, I'm going to type a down because there hasn't been a down yet. So I say there's going to be a down somewhere. All right, so here's what I am going to do. Okay, now there was already a down in the time it took me to get over there and type it. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a melody by just following that sequence. In other words, I'm going to start with my C. And then I'm going to make this be chorale style, which is, again, not necessarily what you have to do. You don't have to make your version of this be one melody note per chord. That is not a requirement. You could take each of those chords and make it a whole measure and throw in 8 eighth notes in that measure. Do whatever you want with those chords. But for demonstration's sake, I'm going to do it one note per chord. And then I'm going to try 2 notes per chord. And so what I'm going to do is anytime the next thing up, I'm going to just follow these things in order. And if it says same, I'm going to keep the same pitch. If it says up, I'm going to go up. If it says down, I'm going to go down. And I'm always going to go up to the next available kind of chord tone. And if it says same, I'm going to keep the same pitch. But if it's not in the chord, I'm then going to move after I get there. So I'm just making it up as a game, and we're going to see. So I said I was going to start on C, and that's what I'm going to start on. And since I know there's a lot of ups, I'm going to start with this low C here. So I'm going to start with F, an F chord with a C in the melody. The first actual answer I saw there was same, so I'm going to keep the pitch the same. All right, and then Colleen said up, down, or same. I'm going to take all three of those. I'm going to go up, and then down, and now same. So I'm going to have to hit that same note over the F chord, and then I'm going to come down. No. I'm going to give myself the the possibility, if it says same and it doesn't fit the chord, I'm just going to repeat it on the previous chord. So I was on a D flat and I have to do same. I'm just going to make it 2 eighth notes. Bum, bum. And now Dan's next one was up. So up, up, and then Dave has up. And then going on to Rod's up, and then Graham's same, and then Mike's is down, and then Jeff's is up. I'm choosing to put a C. I'm on this chord right here. I'm choosing to say that I can have a C over that chord. C, and then and then keep same, same, and that's it. So I just and then maybe I don't know. So there was our melody. It went bum, bum, bum. No. Da, 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 dum, da, dum. Right? That was our melody. So my point isn't that you're going to make a great melody by randomly going up or down. My point is you can always go up or down or keep the same pitch no matter where you are. Sometimes there'll be a smarter answer. Like, for instance, when I hit this D flat, this G half diminished chord, and I had D flat in, no, I didn't. I had I had a D flat in the melody. I really didn't want that D flat to jump up to F. I only did it because the next thing up in the chat was up. And so I went from D flat up to F, but really I think I would have gone down there. There's a general rule of thumb about certain notes having what are called resolution tendencies, and that note kind of wanted to go in that direction. That's why the bass line does that. The bass line goes from the D flat down to the C. So some melody notes, really you have the freedom to go any direction you want. Some melody notes you will find speak to you and say, please go up, please go down. And that's going to be something that, yeah, you can learn rules for that. You can learn rules, say leading tones like to go up, fourths like to come down to the third, altered chromatic pitches, flatted chromatic pitches like to come down, raised chromatic pitches like to go up. There's all sorts of specific principles of what's likely to work. And so by all means you can learn those and do that. But you can also just trust your ears about which way these things would want to go. So the point is, your melody, you've got 3 choices on every melody note. It's either going to stay the same pitch, it's going to go up, or it's going to go down. I was going up to the next available note, but you could also choose to have a big leap. And so you could also, choose where you're going to have your big leaps and things. So I also see Dan's question about diminished chords. And yeah, the diminished chords, there's not a lot of them, but I remember there's one towards the end here. B diminished is this. It's minor thirds stacked on top of each other. So from B, up 3 half steps, up 3 half steps, up 3 half steps. That is B fully diminished 7th. That, and when it says B diminished / C, it means B diminished with a C in the bass. This is called pedal point, when you have one bass note while the chords change. You have this chord doesn't have a C in it, so it creates a form of dissonance that is then resolved when the chords change. chord changes. This technique is a favorite of Bach, and well, favorite of lots of different composers, but definitely that particular idea of at the conclusion of a piece having pedal point of, in particular, using this scale degree 5, because that's where we want our tension, right, on the dominant chord. So you have scale degree 5, and then you have these chords that move that might involve diminished chords. Bach wouldn't have played it like that. He'd have all this counterpoint stuff going on. But yeah, the idea that you move chords around and use diminished chords as part of that while sustaining a single bass note, that's how Bach typically ends fugues, with that kind of pedal point. So, yeah, and Humble New Music, I was definitely thinking of you when I talked about this up-down business because, yeah, that's right up your alley, right? Making a sort of a set of rules and a game for the thing, and I could totally see using, rolling out some dice and figuring it out that way, or generating the ups and downs based on letters of a name, right? You can do things like that, but so much better musically to make the musical choice, not the random choice dictated to you by letters or something. It's just a fun game, right? It is a fun game. And sometimes you get some good answers from it. Absolutely. So yeah, and so Joanne, when you're saying that you not working out any numbers, yeah, that it should be based on your ear. Knowing that certain notes have certain resolution tendencies is good because it helps you get some good answers in like the inner voices and other things. But absolutely, your ear should be what tells you this. It's not like the leading tone goes up because you learned it in a book. No, you should hear. And then your ear should tell you that it wants to go up there. Your ear should be telling you this, right? So yeah, I would never actually do this thing that I was talking about of just rolling the dice or randomly picking up or down. But the point is that, yeah, you always have these options for how you develop your melody, and it's very useful in writing alto and tenor parts because your melody is going to be your melody, your bass line is going to be your bass line, but your alto and tenor parts are going to be there to fill out the chord. And I'm talking about this like it's a four-voice thing, and music is not always about four voices, but conceptually, a lot of piano music is based on four-part harmony. A lot of orchestral music is based on arranging each individual section in four-part harmony. So the inner voices are supposed to be completing the chord and resolving smoothly. And so sometimes you know that, oh, I need that alto voice to go to the next available note higher because of how things are moving. And so you need to have that skill of just doing that because it's not necessarily about creating the world's most interesting alto part. It's about that alto part fulfilling its role. So sometimes filling in inner voices is about not just going with the world's best alto part, but the world's best alto part that fits all the things. So the idea of more than one entry, I will say I will absolutely encourage anyone who wants more than one entry to do this, but pick the one for the judging because that feels more fair. So by all means, from a learning perspective, do as many as you want. From a sharing perspective, share as many as you want, but pick one to say this is my actual entry. Okay, so that's what I wanted to say about the contest. And yeah, again, get from that 0 entries to 1 entry. That's the important part, right? So the next thing that I want to do is take a look again at the actual the piece, the collaborative piece that we've been looking at here, this composition round robin, because there's been some new submissions, some new activity on here, and again, I've sort of followed what's happening, and I'm not getting overly involved. I've been busy with lots of things here, but if anyone wants to tell me things that I should know about the status of this and where I'm going to find the most recent things because you might end up situations like we had last time where two different people took the same starting point and took it in different directions, and sometimes they've been merged together and sometimes they haven't. So I'm not sure what the most merged version of things is, but I'm going to grab a couple that I see here. There's one from Dave here, so I'm going to grab this version. And I know, well, these comments came just after last week's. There's another one. All right, so let's look at these two. So I'm going to check the chat real briefly and see if there's any new stuff. So Dave's version is the most recent with dynamics. So I'm going to go with this one. I don't see dynamics in this one, so that might have been posted somewhere else within that thread. And yeah, that's one problem with any sort of collaborative thing like this is that you end up with different branches on the tree to follow, and that's part of the challenge of putting together collaborations is following all the different threads and keeping up with them. You want to add piano also. So somewhere in here, if someone can post a link to a specific version other than the two that I'm looking at, that would be fantastic. That would help me a lot. Meanwhile, though, let's hit the play button on this. So I will give you my feedback. Yeah. So we're going to hear this version here and check it out. All right, definitely leaves you hanging there at the end. So, of course, it's not over yet. So, yeah, I like a lot of the things that are going on in here. Before I talk about that, I do want to check out this other version here, which is the version that this is the one that has the dynamics. Okay, so this is the most recent version. So I'm going to hear this version also, and I'm not sure if it's got everything from the previous version plus other stuff, or if it started at a previous point, but we'll find out real quickly before I hit the play button. Yeah, so it's not over yet. Obviously, we're going to still hopefully have people create an ending for it before we're done. But now let's hear this. Nice. So yeah, this version, if I'm not mistaken, is mostly the same musically as the other version. By musically, I mean the content of the notes. The main difference was the dynamics, that accelerando, and I believe the cello having switched to pizzicato, because I don't think that's how I remember the other one ending. Right, yeah, the other one ended still arco. So, so yeah, so great. I'll focus on this one unless there's something particular about the other version to talk about. So when you talk about collaboration, so first of all, you have to realize that in the kind of grand scheme of things, historically, collaborative compositions are rare, right? They're not like almost none of the great masterworks that people might be familiar with are collaborations in this sense. Let's talk about the sense in which there are collaborations. There's two of them that I can think of. One is songwriting where lyrics by one person, music by another person, right? That is a common form of collaboration. And when you do that form of collaboration, I don't know. I think it's like almost 50-50 split between. Thanks for that link there. I'm going to check and see if that's the same one I already have. I think that is the same one I already have. 93815. 93815. Perfect. Yep, that's the one I've got. So, but thanks for the link to confirm that. So the Britain piece that you're talking about, is that a collaboration? Is that what you're saying? So yeah, the idea that the lyrics would be by one person and the music by someone else is quite common. And it works about 50-50 either way. In other words, sometimes there's existing lyrics, like one person writes lyrics and then someone else sets it to music. And they might have been collaborating, or it might have been like hundreds of years later. Like one person wrote a poem and hundreds of years later, someone set it to music. That's quite common. If you think about historically, church music is all about taking psalms and other things from the Bible and setting them to new music, right? Or parts of the Mass for the whole Renaissance Mass music kind of thing. So that idea of taking existing lyrics and setting it to music sometimes is just a completely, it's not even collaboration, it's building one on top of the next, and you already have a finished lyric that you're then putting music to. Or conversely, there might have been an existing hymn tune that was written and then someone else writes lyrics to it. Or in the case of like any number of pop songs I can think of, like that Beethoven, right, this thing that you've heard me play, the Beethoven second movement of Pathetique. I remember Billy Joel doing a version of it. This night is mine. Something like that. I don't know. Or maybe that there was like two different pop songs within a year of each other, and now I forget which lyric is which. But in any case, the idea of setting lyrics, new lyrics to existing music, that doesn't involve collaboration. But then there's collaboration where it really is someone writing music, someone writing lyrics, but collaborating, like as the lyricist writes words, a few measures at a time, someone else is setting them to music, and then maybe giving them feedback. Oh, could you change this in the lyric because musically I want to do this, and vice versa. So those kinds of collaborations, tight collaborations between lyricist and melody writer, basically, are well established, and there's definitely a lot of momentum behind that. The other kind of collaboration that's pretty well established is basically orchestration, where someone writes a piano piece and then someone else orchestrates it. And like very famously, there's any number of pieces of music where they might have been originally written for solo piano, and then someone orchestrated it, and it's the orchestrated version that is the one that we know, most people might know today. This was especially true of pieces like in the Romantic era, pieces by Ravel, pictures at an exhibition, Mussorgsky, all sorts of situations like that where an existing piano piece was then orchestrated, or vice versa. An existing orchestral work was then turned into a solo piano piece that then became the more popular version of the thing. So those kinds of collaborations all have in common something that's not shared in this one, which is the sense in which you already have a completed work, a vision of one person that has all the structure that comes from a vision of one person, and then someone else that takes that existing complete structure and adds something to it, adds lyrics or whatever. So what's happening here is we have a puzzle. If this is like a jigsaw puzzle being created without a picture, right? Without a finished picture in mind. Whereas what the kinds of collaborations I'm talking about are maybe, oh, it was already a finished jigsaw puzzle, and then someone else framed it, and then someone else varnished it, and then someone else transferred it into woodcut blocks or whatever. But it started off with a picture, right? A finished picture. So what we don't have here is that finished picture. This is the challenge of this kind of music, is to give it that same kind of structure that would happen from the mind of one person. So let me give you some advice here. One is, as I mentioned a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just last week, I don't know, it's all a blur to me, having one person kind of be responsible for assembling all the pieces and not assuming that each piece of music that gets written is necessarily going to be in that order. But say, oh, someone wrote this piece and they might have written it 2 weeks later, but actually that actually makes a good introduction. They didn't think of it as an introduction, but then later on realizing, oh, that might have been a better introduction than a middle section, or maybe it's both, right? And so that sort of taking these pieces. So now what we're really talking about analogy-wise is not jigsaw puzzle, but scrapbooking, or what's the word I'm looking for? Blankets. Sewing. What's that? What's the word I'm looking for? You know what I mean. Someone tell me and get me out of my misery here. The thing you do when you take all sorts of little bits of stuff and you sew it into a big comforter or something, right? There's a word for that. That's totally escaping me right now. Collage isn't quite the word. That's like with paper. I'm talking about a fabric-based quilting. Thank you, quilting. That's the word I'm looking for. So what we're looking at here is a quilting operation, perhaps, where you've got these pieces. And if you think about assembling a quilt, not that I've ever done it, you don't assume that the order in which, like if people are submitting things to you, you don't assume that the order that they got submitted in is the order that they're going to appear in the quilt. You're going to then look at all the pieces and lay them out and kind of see what works together and what order things go, and figure out how the optimum arrangement is visually and just making them physically fit and all of those things. And then realizing, oh, we're missing a little of this. Could someone give me some more of this kind of stuff? And so having that critical eye of organization is the thing that I would recommend for this. So having it not just be pieces added on top of each other as without that critical eye. I want that critical eye in there. I want someone, or ideally just one person to take charge of that, or it could be two people collaborating, but really collaborating on that, having like an actual little meeting where you talk about these things. I think this part would work well as an introduction. Yeah, well, what if we did this and made that as whatever? Have that discussion in there. And that's the kind of thing that I feel like would bring this kind of material to the next level. So that's one thing that I would say about the whole collaborative nature of this. Now, while I'm saying that, I'm also very aware that there's another aspect of collaborative music that you might be surprised I haven't mentioned yet if you're thinking this way, and that's jazz. Jazz is very much a collaborative music in a way that other ensemble musics aren't. Most ensemble music, everyone's doing their own part. They know their part and they play their part, and yes, they synchronize it with the other parts, but by gosh, you're just playing your part, and you knew before you stepped foot on that stage what your part was going to be, and now you just play it the best you can. But in jazz, we are constantly adjusting what we're playing to what other people. And I don't mean just adjusting the dynamics. I mean creating new notes, saying, oh, he just played this. I'm going to play these notes that I never would have thought to have played before, except it's in response to what's happening. And everyone is doing that at the same time. So that kind of collective improvisation is sort of a term that you would use for the most extreme version of that, where everyone is literally improvising at the same time. Normally, maybe one person is the soloist and other people are the accompanists, and they define their roles accordingly. But still, the pianist accompanying a melody still has a lot of leeway into how he voices his chords or her chords, and what the rhythms are, what the voicings are, and all these things. And the bass player, how they create their bass line, the actual notes they're playing, they're making up as they go along. So yeah, if William wants to be the one to glue, that'd be great. And yeah, Sora has definitely done. I've seen some of the things where she has done some of the work here. So to me, that is the most important thing separating what's going on here from the kinds of collaborations that are familiar successes, basically. So, because what happens with this kind of thing is you end up with a piece that doesn't have that overall structure and doesn't hang together as well. So what happens here is some of that has happened. The return of the A section, right? Return of A section. Whoever made that decision, that was a good decision to make. To say, well, we're going to have a return to something, because that idea of repetition, this is, an important part of how we usually perceive music. We perceive music in terms of a structure in which we've heard something and then we hear that same thing or something related to it later. When we talk about a sonata form, we have our theme and our A theme and our B theme, and then they both repeat to make sure we've heard it again. And then we have our development section where that same A theme and B theme get kind of chewed up and split around a little bit. And then you have your recapitulation where you play that A theme and B theme again. The idea being that those two themes keep coming back, or a fugue in which is really just one subject that is then varied a number of different ways. Pop songs that have verses in which each verse has the same melody but different lyrics. A chorus that comes back more or less identical every time, right? I mean, this type of structuring that involves repetition of material is hugely important to most styles of music, frankly. So having that going on is really important. But also things like when the piano comes in here. So this is something to think about here. I'm gonna play this version. I'm gonna play the version without the accelerando because that actually was a little distracting to me. I liked it, not right away, and so I'm gonna talk about that for a second. But here's the transition into the piano. Okay, so the reason I played as much of that as I did before bringing the piano part in, I wanted to really establish the sound that we had. We have now gone 12 measures into the piece with just the string trio, right? And yeah, and I'm looking at the comments here, and I do want to address some of those too. But let me stick with my thought here for a moment. So the question of when to bring in new instruments and how to bring in those new instruments is an interesting question. And actually, Dave posted this video that was the David Bruce video where he was giving feedback to a beginning composer. And I wonder about that whole beginning composer thing, because that guy clearly knew some stuff, right? It wasn't like I've never heard music before, but now I'm going to write it down. He had a lot of stuff going on that shows he had thought about how to spell triads and how to create. I mean, he had done clearly some amount of music making, unbeknownst to us, before he wrote that particular piece in that video. But yeah, there were a number of things that were that David Bruce was able to find suggestions for. And one of them had to do with this idea of bringing in melodies. And so the original version of that piece had all the instruments playing throughout the piece. And that's not necessarily what you want, because then you have a sort of a similar texture throughout. And we like variety in texture. We like all sorts of variety, but that idea that you might want to have different textures. It's harder to, I mean, a solo piano piece is a solo piano piece. You can't bring in new instruments, but you can play with whether you're playing up here, whether you're playing down here, playing big chords, playing in the middle of the piano. There's all sorts of textural things you can do just within the idea of solo piano. String quartets, also, you only have 4 instruments and you're tempted to use all 4 of them at once so you can write SATB, but you don't have to, right? You can certainly have just 2 instruments playing at a time, just 1 instrument playing at a time. So the idea that this piece doesn't start off with piano does not bother me in the slightest. I like the idea that the piano comes in only later. But what we want to think about is maybe how to optimize that, how to bring that piano in the most effectively. And so when I say the most effectively, I don't mean that there's one answer here, but I do mean it's something to think about how that entrance is going to take place, where it takes place. So in that video, when David Bruce rearranged, he added an introduction and did some stuff, and then he had, I guess it was the flute on the melody, and he had it play a 16th note run leading into the first note to say, here comes the new instrument, and now I've got the melody, and then the new instrument did the thing. So that was effective. It prepared the ear for the change, and therefore made that entrance seem more seamless. The alternative is to have an abrupt change, which is essentially what typically happens between movements of a piece. And then you want it to be contrasting. You pick a new tempo, a new time signature, a new key signature. What we have here is a little bit of a no man's land, and I'm going to now go back to the version with the accelerando. It's a little bit of a no man's land in that most things don't change, but the piano comes in and it creates a fairly abrupt change, despite the fact that the melodic material is not different. The melodic material in the piano is related to what's happened before. So it's sort of a little one and a little of the other, but not quite one. It's not seamless, nor is it abrupt. It's somewhere in between. And I'm going to recommend you think about pushing this one way or the other. So I'm going to now do this version with the accelerando, because the accelerando, I think, actually adds to the sense that it's something new. But then maybe there's some better way of setting up. So let me hear this version again. All right, so I'm going to stop it there. So one of the things that I would say is, if you wanted it to seem more seamless, I would not start the accelerando so soon. I would start it a little later. I would also maybe bring the piano in the previous measure in a way that's supportive of what's going on, but says, hey, the piano's coming, and I'm on board with what you're doing, but now I want to move things in another direction, rather than just, boom, I'm in there and things are in a new direction. But let the piano enter a measure earlier, or 2 measures earlier, or whatever, however you want to do this. And it could be that, it could be that 16th note line, or it could just be participating in what's already happening here of playing, maybe voicing the cello line there in fuller chords, It could be a lot of different things, but to bring in that piano before it kind of takes over would be the version of things in which you are easing the transition more. So it's not too late. It's not too late to do that, is my point. Now, that's if the idea is to make it seamless. But if the idea is to make it more abrupt or make it more contrasty, that's fine. But there's then we want to think about exactly how we make that transition happen still. And to me, I'm trying to put my finger on it. I'm going to listen to these couple measures again. Okay, so I think what happens is, for my ears, to my taste, the cadence that we approach here in measure 12 before the piano comes in is not strong enough to support such an abrupt change. And so if we want to bring in that piano there, I might have done something in which, and then we actually download this version, I might have done something in which I took that measure and came to a cleaner stop. So let me show you what that might look like. There we go. And round robin here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make that be a cleaner cadence. And so what I'm going to do is find that spot. I had it a second ago and then I lost it. Here it is. All I'm going to do is end it on a quarter note. I'm going to get rid of ha. Yeah, when I hit the wrong button. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay? And maybe make this be just an eighth note. So just by terminating this line a little more clearly before the next one comes in, that has exactly the opposite effect of the smoother transition. This is the more abrupt transition. So to me, pick one. Either of those approaches I think would work just fine. So like this version here, where it's a pretty abrupt, okay, that section is over, now the next one starts. I like that one. But I liked the other one too, even though we never really even got to hear it. I like the idea behind it, so actually I'm going to try that now. I'm just going to have the piano start doing some stuff. The problem is harmonically, I haven't thought through what's actually happening here, but I'm going to make some guesses. I'm just going to have it play some notes. And I am not trying to be greatly musically here. I'm just trying to make something that I think might possibly work. I don't know about that D, because again, I don't know harmonically what's actually going on here. I'm going to try an F sharp, actually, because that's a C, B flat, C sharp, and F. A. I still don't know what's going on. So let me back up to here. Okay, right. So I just made up some notes. I was just eyeballing, trying to read alto clef and trying to make something that kind of worked. So the point is, yeah, either bringing in the piano a little earlier to blend in more works, as does concluding the previous section more authoritatively. That also works. But then, if you were to do that, another question is, when does it really make sense to do this? In other words, is 12 measures the right length? To me, I feel like if we're trying to introduce a new section with a new feel, this might be too soon. I would rather develop those first 12 measures a little longer before bringing in the new section. I feel like 12 measures at that tempo wasn't necessarily enough. So if we're to make it, well, either way, I don't know. These are ideas to play with. There's not one right answer, but I would definitely be considering the idea, especially I would say if we want it to be a more uh, abrupt new idea coming in or feeling like a new idea. I'd want the first idea to have been developed a little longer. So here's the other thing that happens when composing that you always have to be careful of. And I've made this point before, but it's that much more powerful when we talk about collaborative composition. Composition is a much slower process than improvisation or than listening. And this is a significant factor. If I am improvising music, it takes me exactly 37 seconds to improvise 37 seconds worth of music. And so at the exact same point that I, as an improviser, am ready for a new idea, the listener is going to be ready at that same time because he's been listening to that for the same amount of time as me. Composing, though, totally different. It might have taken me an hour to write that 37 seconds of music. And I might, after that hour, think, oh my God, I'm ready for a new idea. But it's only been 37 seconds. We're not necessarily, the listener isn't necessarily ready for that new idea. And that's assuming that it was only an hour. The problem here with collaborative composition is it didn't take an hour to get those first 12 measures. It took the better part of a week to get those first 12 measures. So you all are probably tired of those first 12 measures and ready for something new. In a way, the listener is not. The listener is hearing this for the first time, and they're like, I don't care if it took you a week to create those 12 measures. It only took me 37 seconds to listen to it, and I just made up a number, but now I'm curious. How long did it take to get there? I think it was fewer than 37 seconds. Oh my God, look at that. 39 seconds. Oh my gosh. So that note right there is 37 seconds in. This random wild guess, and boy was that like not the right number. So 37 seconds in is when I was proposing easing the piano in. The actual entrance of the piano was after 40 seconds. So yeah, you all spent a week getting to that point. You were ready for that entrance, but as a listener, they're not ready. It's only been 40 seconds. They might not be ready. Or if they're ready for something, they're ready for something different from what you're ready for. After a week, you're ready for one thing. After 40 seconds, they're ready for something, but maybe not the same thing you were ready for after a week, right? So the idea of being able to step back and look at the big picture here is really kind of important in doing this sort of thing. And that applies to all composition, but again, if you're going to collaborate, it's going to exacerbate it, and you have to think about it that much harder. So it's always the case that it takes us longer to write something than it does to listen to, but if you do a lot of composing, you kind of get used to that. And I often will like take a break. I'll walk around the block, do whatever, and then come back and then listen to what I have before starting to write, rather than just always writing one measure at a time. This coming back. So yeah, improvising is composing on the fly, although it's some people don't like that analogy, and they say no, improvisation is inherently different from composition. It's not just faster composition. Okay, yes, there's a sense in which they probably are right about that, but yeah. To a rough approximation, improvisation is just instant composition. That's what it is. So yeah, these are the kinds of things that I'm talking about. It's not, yes, we go into each measure and say, oh, this note could be that note for voice leading reasons or whatever. That's all well and good, and I normally do that, right? I get into those detail-oriented things. But I think what's going on with this piece, what you really want to be paying attention are more these big picture-y things. So just to come back to some of the comments that I didn't address before, Dave mentioned about, I think that was Dave, yeah, about sections being the same length and guaranteed like 12-bar blues. And yeah, so we all know we're working within a certain form. And it's not just that the sections are the same length, but we know we're all following the same chord progression. Everyone who's improvising at the same time is generally doing it to the same chord progression, other than free improvisation, where there is no preset structure like that. And that becomes as difficult a problem as this one is to make that collaboration work. And it's a lot of fun. and can create some really interesting music, but it's a challenge, and it's a challenge to create music that is equally satisfying to as many people when you don't have a structure to kind of keep you on the same page. So, so that comment there is, yeah, I think a good one. That having that preset structure helps things hang together, but you don't have that here. Now, if you had started with a preset structure and said, all right, we're going to have this form, and now let's start filling it in, that could have been an interesting way to start as well. But some other project can be that way. So yeah, the who's in control question is a good one here, because yeah, too many cooks spoil the broth is going to be an issue here, but I'm not saying it has to be just one person making these decisions, but maybe it it that could be a collaborative decision also, but it's an important it's an important decision to be making, or a set of decisions to be making. So anyhow, that's my feedback here. It's the success of this piece. I mean, it's successful as it is already, but what really will bring it to the next level has less to do with the detail of adding a piece here or a piece there, but more about the stepping back to see the big picture. And maybe everyone steps back together, and then you brainstorm about things, and then someone goes in to do those things. I mean, how you actually do this collaboration, as I said, it's a new thing. It's not, there isn't a lot of model for how should collaborative composition happen. Now, I will say one analogy where that does happen: movie scores. A lot of movie scores, like a big movie score, is a big project. John Williams doesn't write all that stuff all by himself. No, he writes some stuff, sketches some stuff out, and has a team of people that do the stuff, that do the rest of the work. Quincy Jones works that way. A lot of the big Hans Zimmer, all the big composers who are parts of big productions. Not that Quincy Jones does movie scores per se, but he's probably done a few, but a lot of that kind of work is not solo one-person work. It's one person setting the vision, establishing some themes, and then farming out individual pieces to people. So that idea of having that division of labor within a piece does happen within the movie score world. So yeah, doing this on the internet is tough. So Zoom is definitely a way of doing that, and maybe someone could try to organize a little Zoom session. I'm going to be looking at setting things in place to allow that sort of collaboration to happen more easily. And this all ties into what I started off talking about of, some of what I do goes beyond just MuseScore stuff. I want to expand the audience, expand the the identity of what we're doing, and so maybe some new naming is in order, and maybe the Mastering MuseScore and this other thing live in side by side. I really don't know the answers. I'm looking for feedback, but in any case, there could be room for some sort of collaborative space within that. And I actually did create that. Remember, I created this alt DMA area within the community that is going to be where I think I'm going to try to do some of these new things. And I have set up a tentative study hall area where people who are part of that program would be able to just get together. But how I have to set that up technically, there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyhow, that's some of my feedback, and loving the comments in here. And I'm now going to let you have at it. Okay. So that's my piece. That's what I have to say here. And let's now go on and see what you can do with this stuff. So if you're going to continue working on that collaboration, which I certainly recommend, go for it and try to keep some of those things that I said in mind. But also remember the challenge, and keep working on that composition, on your composition for that challenge. I really want to see a lot of entries for that, because I just think that makes it better for everyone. The more people that participate, the better. And by all means, whatever other projects you're working on, keep working on those, and I'll keep talking about those during these sessions. And that's the great things about these sections. They get to be very interactive, very discover as we move along kinds of things. So I hope you enjoyed the session, and come back next week. We'll be see what we've learned and see what new stuff we have to talk about next time. So, all right, see you all next time. And Bob, definitely check out that the discussion, the what's in a name discussion that I started and failed miserably in posting the link to. But in the community, there's that discussion that I created that says and it's here under suggestion box if you have trouble finding it. This is the what's in a name suggestion, and I just want to spark some discussion in there. So, all right, I will now let you all go. Thanks again so much, and I will see you next time. As soon as I get back to where I need to be. That must be it. There we go. All right, see you later.